My sister Jessica stood at her engagement party in a $15,000 dress, champagne in hand, and casually told our cousin she'd used my trust fund to pay for her wedding. $1.5 million that my grandmother left me. I was standing right behind her. She turned around, saw my face, and laughed. Said I should be thanking her for putting the money to good use. I smiled, hugged her, and said I couldn't wait for the wedding. 6 months later, on what was supposed to be the happiest day of her life, I made sure she'd never forget what happens when you steal from family. Quick backstory. Our grandmother was wealthy, built a fortune in real estate investments over 40 years. She died 3 years ago and left trust funds for both her granddaughters. Jessica got hers at 25, $500,000. I was supposed to get mine at 28, triple what Jessica got because Grandma knew I'd been helping care for her during her final years. Jessica always resented that. Said it wasn't fair that I got more just for spending time with a dying old woman. Those were her actual words. The trust was managed by Grandma's lawyer, Mr. Patterson. He was supposed to release my funds on my 20th birthday, which was supposed to be last month. But Mr. Patterson retired 2 years ago, sold his practice to a younger firm. The transition was messy. Files got transferred, some got lost. In that chaos, Jessica saw an opportunity. She'd been named as an emergency contact on my trust documents, something Grandma did in case I was unreachable when the time came. Jessica used that access to convince the new lawyers she was acting on my behalf. She forged my signature on withdrawal forms. Over 18 months, she drained my entire trust fund. Every single dollar. But what happened next made my blood run cold. I found out completely by accident. I called the law firm 2 months before my birthday to confirm the transfer date. The paralegal congratulated me on already receiving my funds. I went silent. She realized something was wrong, put me on hold, came back confused. The money had been transferred in increments over the past year and a half to accounts with my name on them, but I'd never opened those accounts. I drove to that law office immediately. They pulled up everything. The signatures were good forgeries, I'll give Jessica that. But the accounts were joint accounts with Jessica's name also listed. She'd been slowly moving money from those accounts into her personal accounts. The paper trail was clear once you knew to look for it. The law firm was panicking. They knew they'd screwed up, hadn't verified properly during the transition. They could be sued for negligence. I told them I needed time to think, didn't want to make any rash decisions. Truth was, I already knew exactly what I wanted to do. But I needed them scared and cooperative. That's when everything changed. I hired a forensic accountant that week. Woman named Patricia, who specialized in financial fraud cases. She was expensive, but I had some savings and I took out a loan. Patricia traced every dollar. Jessica had been spending like crazy. Designer clothes, luxury vacations, a new Mercedes, and the big one, deposits to her wedding planner. She was planning this massive destination wedding in Tuscany. 200 guests, 5-star resort, the works. My money was funding her fairy tale. I didn't confront Jessica. Not yet. I played it cool, acted normal at family dinners. Jessica had no idea I knew anything. She was too busy planning her perfect wedding, posting photos of dress fittings and venue tours on Instagram. Every post felt like a knife in my back, but I smiled through it. Then came her engagement party. Fancy affair at a country club, everyone dressed up. Jessica was showing off her ring, this massive diamond her fiancé Mark definitely couldn't afford on his teacher's salary. I was standing near the bar when I overheard her talking to our cousin Rachel. Rachel asked how they were affording such an extravagant wedding. Jessica laughed and said, "Let's just say my little sister's trust fund is finally being put to good use. Grandma would have wanted the money to create memories, right?" She actually said that. Acted like she was honoring Grandma's wishes by stealing from me. Quick thing, if you're enjoying this, hit subscribe. We post family revenge stories daily, and trust me, some are even crazier than this. Alright, back to the story. I walked up to them. Jessica turned around, and for a split second I saw panic in her eyes. Then she covered it with that fake sweet smile she does. I hugged her, told her I was so happy for her, couldn't wait for the wedding. She relaxed. Thought I didn't know. Thought she'd gotten away with it. I left that party and called Patricia. Told her to compile everything into a legal case file. Then I called a lawyer, a really good one who specialized in trust fund fraud. Her name was Diana, and when I explained the situation, she actually smiled. Said this was the most clear-cut case she'd seen in years. Diana laid out my options. We could go to the police immediately, criminal charges for fraud and forgery. We could sue Jessica and the law firm civilly for the full amount plus damages. Or we could wait, let Jessica dig herself deeper, then strike when it would hurt the most. I chose option 3, because I wanted Jessica to feel the same shock and betrayal I felt, times 1,000. The wedding was 6 months away. In that time, Diana built an airtight case. We had bank records, forged signatures analyzed by experts, testimony from the new law firm admitting their negligence, everything. We filed a criminal complaint quietly, got an arrest warrant issued, but asked the police to hold off executing it. We wanted the timing to be perfect. Want to know the best part? Jessica kept spending. She had no idea the walls were closing in. She booked a honeymoon to the Maldives, $12,000. Bought Mark a Rolex as a wedding gift, $18,000. Every purchase was more evidence, more proof of her using stolen funds. I played my role perfectly. Helped with wedding planning when asked, attended her bachelorette party in Miami, smiled in all the photos. My mom kept asking why I seemed so supportive suddenly, said she'd expected more jealousy from me. I just said I'd grown up, wanted my sister to be happy. Mom seemed proud. She had no idea what was coming. 2 weeks before the wedding, Diana and I met with the district attorney. Showed him everything. He was furious, said this kind of family fraud was more common than people thought, and he was tired of wealthy people thinking they could steal from relatives without consequences. He agreed to our timeline. The arrest would happen on the wedding day. Little did Jessica know I had one more card to play. The wedding day arrived. Tuscany was beautiful, I'll admit that. The resort was stunning, overlooking vineyards and rolling hills. 200 guests, everyone dressed in their finest. Jessica looked gorgeous in her dress, a custom Vera, one that cost $45,000 of my money. Mark looked nervous, but happy. He had no idea what his fiancée had done. I almost felt bad for him. Almost. The ceremony was at sunset, outdoor venue decorated with thousands of white roses. I sat in the 3rd row, watching my sister prepare to say vows about trust and commitment. The irony wasn't lost on me. She was pledging to be honest and faithful to Mark while having stolen over $1 million from her own sister. They got through the ceremony. I'll give her that. She said, I do, and kissed Mark, and everyone clapped. For a moment, I wondered if I was doing the right thing. Then I remembered her laughing at that engagement party about using my trust fund. The doubt vanished. The reception started. Dinner was served, speeches were made. Jessica's maid of honor talked about what an amazing friend she was, so generous and kind. I had to bite my tongue. Then it was time for the father-daughter dance. Dad and Jessica swayed to some classic song while everyone watched and took photos. That's when the Italian police walked in. 3 officers, very professional, very calm. They spoke to the wedding coordinator first, who pointed toward Jessica. The music didn't stop right away. People were confused, thought maybe it was some kind of surprise Jessica had planned. The police approached Jessica and Mark on the dance floor. I couldn't believe what I was seeing as it unfolded. One officer spoke English, explained they had a warrant for Jessica's arrest issued by U.S. authorities, enforceable through international agreements. Jessica's face went from confused to terrified in seconds. She looked around the room, saw me sitting calmly at my table, and she knew. She knew I'd done this. She started screaming that it was a mistake, that I was lying, that she'd never stolen anything. Mark was asking what was happening, totally lost. Mom was crying, trying to intervene. Dad was demanding explanations. The police were patient but firm. Jessica had to come with them. Now. They put handcuffs on her. Right there, in her wedding dress, in front of 200 guests. She was crying, mascara running, begging them to wait until after the reception. They said no. She looked at me one more time, and I smiled. The same smile I'd given her at the engagement party. She understood what that smile meant. 3 days later, karma came knocking even harder. Jessica was extradited back to the US within 72 hours. The Italian authorities don't mess around with international fraud cases. Mark flew back separately, completely blindsided. He'd known nothing about the stolen money. Thought Jessica's family was just wealthy and generous. The marriage was annulled within the week. He wanted nothing to do with her. The criminal case moved fast. Jessica's lawyers tried to argue it was a misunderstanding, that she thought she had permission to access the trust. Diana destroyed that defense with forged signatures and fake accounts. Jessica pled guilty to avoid a longer sentence. She got 3 years in prison and was ordered to pay full restitution plus interest. $1.8 million total. Real quick, where are you watching from? Drop your country below. And, honestly, would you have gone this far? Let me know. Now, here's where everything exploded even more. Jessica didn't have the money anymore. She'd spent almost all of it. The law firm's insurance covered $800,000 as part of their negligence settlement. But Jessica still owed me $1 million. Her car was seized, her apartment lease terminated, every asset liquidated. She declared bankruptcy from prison. It'll take her decades to pay me back if she ever does. But here's the thing. I didn't just get money from the law firm's insurance. I sued them separately for emotional distress, negligence, and breach of fiduciary duty. They settled for an additional $700,000 to avoid a public trial. Combined with what I recovered from Jessica's seized assets and the insurance payout, I actually came out ahead. I had more than my original trust fund amount. My parents were devastated. Mom blamed me for ruining Jessica's life, said I could have handled it privately. Dad was quieter but disappointed. They couldn't understand why I'd chosen public humiliation over quiet resolution. I tried explaining that Jessica had spent 18 months stealing from me, lying to everyone, living a luxury lifestyle on my stolen inheritance. They didn't want to hear it. Family dinner stopped. My parents chose Jessica's side, said prison was punishment enough. My aunts and uncles were split. Half thought I was justified, half thought I was cruel. The family basically fractured down the middle. Holidays became awkward negotiations about who was invited where. Then I found out the truth about why Jessica really stole the money. Mark, her ex-fiancé, contacted me months after the arrest. He'd been going through old emails and found something. Jessica had been gambling online, had racked up $200,000 in debt to some sketchy offshore sites. The wedding, the clothes, the car, those were just cover. She'd been desperate to pay off gambling debts and maintain appearances. That information changed my perspective a bit. Jessica hadn't just been greedy. She'd been addicted and desperate. It didn't excuse the theft, but it explained the intensity of it. She'd needed my trust fund to save herself from whatever consequences those gambling sites threatened. I thought about visiting her in prison, maybe trying to understand. But then I remembered the engagement party. The way she'd laughed about stealing from me. The way she'd acted entitled to my grandmother's money. Addiction might explain the behavior, but it doesn't erase the betrayal. Patricia, my forensic accountant, told me later that about 40% of trust fund fraud happens between family members. Siblings stealing from siblings, parents from children, everyone thinking family loyalty means they'll get away with it. She said I was one of the only clients who'd actually followed through with full prosecution. Most people drop charges, can't handle destroying family relationships. I don't regret it. Not the arrest, not the public nature of it, none of it. Jessica made a choice to steal from me repeatedly over 18 months. She had multiple chances to stop, to confess, to make it right. She chose to keep going, to mock me at parties, to spend my inheritance on her fantasy life. The trust fund money is invested now, growing safely under my control. I bought a modest house, started a business helping fraud victims navigate legal systems. Patricia works with me sometimes. We've helped recover millions for people whose family members stole from them. It's become my purpose, helping others get justice the way I did. Jessica gets out in 18 months with good behavior. She's written me letters, apologizing, begging for forgiveness. Says prison has changed her, that she's getting help for the gambling addiction. She wants to rebuild our relationship when she's released. I haven't responded. Maybe someday I will. But not yet. The wound is still too fresh. Plot twist. Mark actually thanked me months after the wedding. Said I'd saved him from a marriage built on lies, that he would have eventually discovered Jessica's problems, and it would have been worse. He's engaged to someone else now, someone honest. He invited me to his wedding. I might actually go. And that's how karma caught up with her. If this satisfied you, smash that like and subscribe for daily family revenge stories. Comment what you think Jessica deserved. YouTube's recommending another crazy story next. Check it out. See you there. My grandmother would have approved, I think. She always said that character is revealed in crisis, and that enabling bad behavior isn't love, it's cowardice. Jessica needed consequences, real ones, not family members covering for her. Maybe prison will actually help her. Maybe she'll come out better. But that's her journey now, not mine.